And welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to talk about that lawsuit between Stellantis, actually FCA, which is owned by Stellantis, and Randy Marion CDJR in North Carolina. And yes, many of you have been messaging me saying, why haven't you done a video on this? Well, I wanted to get a hold of the actual lawsuit, the actual filing, and a couple of the exhibits, because I was curious which cars, which vehicles are they wanting Stellantis to buy back? Because, of course, knowing that could make the story a little bit better, a little more juicy, and also help us figure out, maybe at least come up with our opinion of who is in the wrong. Well, I got all that stuff, and I'll show it to you in a second, and I will break down right from the lawsuit's documents exactly what the lawsuit's about. Now, I want to preface everything with, I only have the actual lawsuit filed by FCA, or Stellantis, if you will. And that is their position on the notice of termination and demand for them to buy back $180 million worth of their vehicles at the end of their contract, and they would have to do that. Stellantis would have to pay them back that, buy all these vehicles back within about 90 days. So they are asking for an expedited decision from the courts, which means this could come to resolution pretty quickly. But I have to say this, that in this movie, this play that we've been in this last 5-6 years fighting with these dealers, or really the last 3 where it's gotten super ugly, is there's 3 main actors in this. You've got the manufacturer, so Stellantis, FCA, Dodge, then you've got the dealers, and then you've got the customers. And it seems like we're all in a weird movie scene where we're all pointing our weapon at each other.
All right, listen, let's just take a moment to figure out who's double-crossing themselves while dressed as each other, okay? Does that sound good?
And what happens is we keep just going around in circles. You've got the manufacturer who considers the dealership and the customers to be their enemy. You got the dealership who considers the manufacturer and the customers to be their enemy. You got the customers, us, that see Stellantis, the manufacturer, and the dealers as the enemy. And frankly, it's a miracle any of us could get anything done. So you've got all this pointing of fingers back and forth, trying to figure out who the bad guys are.
Okay, so then you became yourself dressed as me. I get that. Right. And then
Well, in this case, you've got 2 of the bad guys that, in my opinion, that are fighting with each other, which, I'm sorry, I think it's hilarious. I can't help but to think it's funny. When I first heard about the lawsuit, I couldn't help but to think, well, that's beautiful. Let them fight with each other. Let them have it out. Because in the end, I don't know who I want to win, because I think both of them have been doing such a horrible job with us, the customers, that regardless of the outcome, I think there's going to be some discovery that we're going to be able to have. But what I think's happening here is you got the manufacturer and the dealer who have generally been, while not liking each other and been at odds, definitely wanting to see us get it. I mean, they both win when we lose. So that's been the dance. As a matter of fact, I have a great clip of a video that perfectly depicts this exact scenario.
Gonna do. We've never ever been able to ever make ends meet, have we? It's all your damn fault for not earning enough anyway.
Oh, don't start.
Don't you threaten me, you weak, cowering little man. I've given you the best years of my life. You've got no drive, no ambition. That's your trouble.
Right, this is a hold-up. Get back. Come.
Oh, here, Tom!
Anybody moves, she gets it.
So I'm sorry, if you're laughing really hard, that's great. If you were triggered by that video, get over it. Let's go ahead and jump to my other screen and show you that lawsuit and break down what's exactly happening here. And I'm sorry, try not to laugh, because you're going to have your opinions on this like I do, and I'll share them as I go along. But just know, for legal reasons, these are just my opinions. I will read the text, and then I will share my opinion. And I think a lot of you are going to agree with me that this is like a hilarious musical chairs game that finally stopped, and they are fighting over the chair. And it is downright hilarious to watch because we're not in it. Sure, for them, it's pretty horrible. For us, I think it's like they're kind of getting what they deserve. All right, let's jump over. All right, so here's the lawsuit, the actual lawsuit filed in North Carolina, and this will show you the exact complaint. Now, if you want, you can read this thing. If somebody wants it, you can go online and get it. You can go to a website. I'll put a link to this website where you can actually go and create an account. And yeah, you'll have to pay for this stuff, but I mean, it's publicly available to anybody who wants to get it. So I want to start off with just a quick background and get past, once we get past the legalese and junk here, let's get right down to the basis of this lawsuit. And I'll share with you in a second Exhibit 2 that started this thing. But this declaratory judgment action concerns the interpretation of provisions within North Carolina General Statute, and here's the statute, whether those provisions require repurchase of fleet vehicles upon termination of Marion, one of its North Carolina dealers. So what they're doing here in this lawsuit, what Stellantis is doing, FCA is, they're saying, and by the way, it is a FCA, you'll see, FCA versus, this is Randy Marion, CDJR. What they're asking for is to rule on whether this statute applies or not to this demand, this request from Marion. And I think it's going to be, my opinion again, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch for Randy Marion, which could be pretty ugly for them. You want a good deal? Go to their website. You might get a good deal on one of these vehicles. This explains basically what the statute is. Notwithstanding the term of any franchise agreement or waiver upon termination, non-renewal, or cancellation of any franchise by the manufacturer or distributor, the cessation of business or the termination, non-renewal, or cancellation of any franchise by any new motor vehicle dealer located in this state, or upon any of the occurrences set forth in this provision, the manufacturer or distributor shall purchase from and compensate the new motor vehicle dealer for all the following. This is the crux of this entire lawsuit. Each new and unsold motor vehicle within the new motor vehicle dealer's inventory that has been acquired within 24 months of the effective date of termination from the manufacturer, distributor, or another same line make dealer in the ordinary course of business, and which has not been substantially altered or damaged to the prejudice of the manufacturer or distributor while in the new motor vehicles dealer's possession, and which has been driven less than 1,000 miles or, for purposes of a recreational vehicle motorhome as defined, less than 1,500 miles following the original date of delivery to the dealer, and for which no certificate of title has been issued. For purposes of this subdivision, the term ordinary course of business shall include inventory transfers of all new, same line make vehicles between affiliated dealerships or otherwise between dealerships having common or interrelated ownership, provided that transfer is not intended solely for the purpose of benefiting from the termination assistance described in the subdivision. So basically what this is saying, and it seems very fair, that if somebody's going to get rid of their franchise agreement, that they can't be sitting on a whole bunch of new cars that they couldn't sell and not have a franchise agreement. So it would basically protect both the dealer from having cars they can't do anything with and would have to sell to other dealers. And if other dealers are struggling, then they would be stuck with those cars. But it also ensures that this dealership doesn't become a used car dealership with a bunch of new Dodge vehicles or Chrysler, Jeep, Ram vehicles lined up on their lot. So basically the manufacturer gets them back, can redistribute them out to other dealerships who want to buy them, to sell them, and all is well. But in this situation, there's a dispute between the parties as to whether Marion's fleet vehicles fall under FCA's repurchase requirement under this statute. And the FCA is requesting the matter be decided on an expedited basis because they have 90 days to cut the check for that $180 million. And then they refer to Marion's notice of termination. Now I'll jump over to show you this real quick. Here is the notice of termination from the actual letter that was sent and an email follow-up letting Stellantis know that they sent this. So, gentlemen, attached, please find a notice of termination of their franchise agreement is what it is. that was sent to your office via U.S. mail and overnight mail yesterday. Also attached, please see a copy of our most recent retail inventory list, which I have it. Fleet inventory list, special tool information and parts list as mentioned in the termination notice. Please contact my COO, DJ Heller, if you have any questions about this information, blah, blah, blah. Then, that's straight from Randy Marion, the president. But then we go up to the certified letter that was sent to FCA, actually laying out, they were pulling this North Carolina general statute. So they are basically just simply notifying them that they are ending their agreement and they are done in 30 days. And here's the deal. Per this law, you have to buy all these cars back. You have to buy back our signs, furnishings that have not been substantially altered or damaged, special tools, as long as they've not been altered or damaged. And you have to pay us within 90 days. And then they just refer to the North Carolina state law and Randy Marion, and of course CC's attorney, because they know you send a bill to somebody for $180 million, I don't care who it is, they're going to get their lawyers involved and say, whoa, we need more information. So let's go back to the lawsuit, jump to the paragraphs that I think were the most interesting. Here, the lawsuit says, an FCA dealer typically purchases fleet vehicles upon a customer's request. For example, if a plumbing company needs 6 vans for its plumbing business, it will contact an FCA dealer which orders the fleet vehicles on the plumbing company's behalf and re-invoices the fleet vehicles to the plumbing company. Oftentimes, the fleet units are delivered or drop-shipped directly to the customer's specified address. Let's jump through here. This is just, they got their fleet number. Paragraph 19, over the last 3 years alone, Marion has ordered thousands of fleet units from FCA, with Marion ordering many of those units on behalf of specific customers, including W.D. Wright, American Rent-A-Car, Splenda, Halliburton, Lowe's, and others. Marion has recently revealed to FCA that the fleet units it reported as sold to specific customers were untrue, and that Marion has amassed a remarkably atypical large stock of 3,841 fleet units. This appears to be consistent with Marion's history of selling many fleet units, as it sold 4,500 fleet units in 2023 and 773 fleet units in 2024. The reason why they say that is it's very likely that Marion would come back and say, hey, if you thought that was a lot of vehicles, you were in on it. You should have known that they didn't have that many orders. Well, they're saying, no, they've actually been selling in the past that many cars. But then there's a little contradiction here, but in the end, they're covering themselves. 21, on June 13, Marion mailed a notice of termination to FCA, and Marion's fleet inventory list also, other items, and among other items. Marion demanded repurchase of all retail and fleet units. Typically, FCA does not repurchase fleet units upon a dealer's termination because dealers do not typically possess a large number of stock fleet units, as does Marion here, since dealers typically do not place a fleet order unless it has a customer committed to purchase that fleet unit. So they're saying, this doesn't seem right. The fleet inventory list, dated June 13th, has 3,841 vehicles. So I went and pulled the list. I got Exhibit 3 right here, and here is the list, and I will blow it up just so you know what it is. Look at all these tradesman trucks. All these are trucks, just trucks. Tons of these tradesman trucks, these bighorns, tradesmen. You've got, as I go on, it's a long list. There are some Jeep Compasses in there as well. Bighorns. You've got so many trucks. I mean, this is thousands of trucks, and this goes on for 30 pages, and it's pretty much all that stuff. So no, there isn't any, I didn't see any Challengers or Chargers or anything in there like that, but it appears to me that possibly this dealer was doing what some dealers did with Dodge Chargers and Challengers with their fleet vehicles, which is go ahead and make the straw orders and have them lined up. Now, I'm not saying they did this. I'm just saying, based on the accusations here, it appears Stellantis is saying that that's what they did. So they're going to have to, of course, prove otherwise and defend against that. But of course, we've seen that in our world from the normal customers' perspective. They were doing that stuff to get a lot of cars in the hot market. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on. There's some Jeep Compasses, and there you go. There's some, I think they're up here, some little Jeep Compasses. Not that it matters, but yeah, there you go, some Compasses. But for the most part, these were all trucks, work vehicles, work trucks, just thousands of these things. So nothing other than that. Nothing, doesn't get too exciting. So we will go back to the actual lawsuit. So number 25, the remainder of the fleet units, about 59% or 2,273 units, were ordered using approximately 20 other customer-specific basically fleet numbers, meaning that those units were earmarked especially for a specific customer. For example, 441 were ordered using W.D. Wright's fan, basically their fleet number, and 301 were ordered using Halliburton's, meaning that those units were ordered specifically for sale to W.D. Wright and Halliburton. Upon information and belief, these FCA fleet customers were unaware. This is important. Basically, FCA is saying, hey, upon us getting some information, and what they believe is that these, W.D. Wright and Halliburton, were unaware that Marion used their fleet numbers to order these fleet vehicles, and Marion retained these units rather than delivering them to the customers. Next, upon information and belief, instead of selling the fleet units to assigned customers, Marion schemed, this is the accusation, Marion schemed to stockpile these fleet vehicles during this period of high demand and sell them to customers, fleet or otherwise, or to other dealers at high prices given the demand. Does that make sense? Sound familiar to all of us in our world? Could that have been happening? I mean, it's plausible. I mean, it's frankly believable in my opinion, but that's the accusation. They'll have to defend and prove otherwise to fight this accusation. When the market for these vehicles declined in 2023, that is the musical chairs fight that I'm talking about, because Marion was left with excess inventory. All of a sudden, rates go to the moon, and they get stuck with all this inventory, which it now is attempting to dump back on FCA, despite representing that they were already sold fleet units. But Brad, why don't they just go ahead and just sell those things and not have this big, huge fight? Well, this gets into the cost that they're incurring to have these things there. So, despite Marion's history of fleet sales at this level and quantity, Marion's demand to FCA, this is the why they're suing them and why they believed that Marion's bailing out of their franchise agreement. FCA likely comes from the downturn and its impact on the interest expense Marion must pay its credit source. I think that means the flooring costs. For example, if a fleet unit costs $55,000 a unit and a dealer has an interest rate of 7.5% to fund the purchase of that unit, that would equate to approximately a $320 interest per unit per month. If a dealer is holding 4,000 fleet units, the interest expense in total climbs to $1.28 million a month. So if we're looking for motive for why Marion wants out, is they're saying they likely are trying to do this because they're sitting on about $1.2 million, $1.3 million in basically flooring expense, interest expense, to sit on all those units and not have any buyers to buy them, or not enough buyers to buy them. Marion is using North Carolina statute as a sword to obscure the error in its own operations. Demanding that FCA repurchase this large number of fleet units is inappropriate, unreasonable, and not required by applicable North Carolina law for several reasons. Moreover, the request comes with a hefty price tag, as FCA would likely have to expend approximately $180 million less any incentives paid to repurchase these fleet units. First, the units are not in Marion's inventory for purposes of the statute. Marion purchased a large portion of these fleet units using a specific customer's fleet number and represented to FCA that they were purchased by and sold to a specific customer. It would be unreasonable and unfair to now consider them part of Marion's inventory for repurchase when Marion deceptively ordered these units in the first place. Moreover, some of these fleet vehicles have been modified and upfitted with accessories for specific, can that be add-ons? For specific purposes and customized to customers' requests and needs, and thus are not capable of being repurchased. These upfit vehicles were clearly considered sold to end customers that requested such modifications. Once upfitted for specific purpose, the vehicle becomes increasingly difficult to resell to a different customer, and they should not be forced to buy these back. Number 32, as these vehicles at issue were purchased as fleet units, especially for specific customers, Marion's recourse should be with the end users. This is the punchline. To the extent they existed, they're saying maybe they didn't even exist. They probably just order these things to make a bunch of money on them, to resell them in general. But they're saying to the extent they even existed, who declined delivery, not FCA. Instead of addressing the consequences of its actions, Marion now demands to offload these vehicles on FCA. This is brutal. And the rest of the laws, I mean, this is a really simple one. I mean, it's not confusing, but I also thought, hey, man, I wonder what's going on the website here for Randy Marion. So if you go to Marion CDJR and just look at what's going on their website, I'm going to tell you all, if you want a deal right now in the middle of this thing, you might be able to steal some work trucks, because since those are all work trucks, new work trucks, let's see what they've got on their website. They've got a freaking boatload of these work trucks. I mean, again, 3,881 of these things. So if you want a work truck, go make a deal. Call for final pricing. Yeah, that's, I'm going to guess it's going to be significantly less. They're probably not going to be able to change pricing on their website right now because of this lawsuit. But if you walk in there, you might be able to start moving these things. And every time that dealership sells one, it's them knowing that their lawsuit, that their defense is likely not strong enough to win, because they need to move these things. And there is pages upon pages and upon pages, and probably well beyond. If I go to the end of pages of these, oh, here it is, 1,196 pages of these work trucks, work vehicles. 1,196 down here. See that? So that is the story, folks, and straight from the actual lawsuit. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is as funny as I think it is? I mean, I know lives are going to be changed, and especially folks that work at that dealership, if this doesn't go through, they're stuck with almost 4,000 of these trucks, and they cannot sell. And I don't think they're going to be able to sell them very fast at all. But I can tell you there will be a flood of these types of work trucks being flooded into the market, meaning if you own a company, you own a plumbing shop, any construction business, you need some trades vehicles, I think you're going to be seeing some amazing deals hit the markets very, very soon, regardless of the outcome here. But again, I think this is just kind of ironic to see the dealer and the manufacturer going to war with each other, and it looks like both of them have been playing games. Now, I will say, I did watch some videos, and I did hear the rumors that Stellantis was out telling these dealers to put a bunch of their vehicles into their fleets as loaners, so they would show as sales, and that would help inflate their stock price. And I guess there might be some investigations out there going on and stuff I saw on TK's channel. So there may be some foul play that happened on both sides, and that led to this thing coming up. So I can't speak for Randy Marion's company. They may have just a powerful defense and end up winning this thing. But just on first blush, what we were able to see in that lawsuit, it looks like some of the tactics we had to deal with a lot of the cars that we buy, with dealers doing everything they can to flood their inventory when demand was super high so they could cash in huge by actually having the vehicles available. So with that, everybody, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.